Hey everybody, it's Tyler with Gaia Force Gaming, and I'm here with Ben, Airborne of Gaia Force Gaming. What's up, Ben?
I'm doing all right. A little under the weather, but feeling pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, I also have the con funk, because for anyone who doesn't go online, DigiFest was this last weekend, DigiFest Miami, to be specific, and Ben and I both went. So did Shannon and Dan from the team. The only team member who couldn't make it was Trey. And we all played blue. So we're here to talk
Surprise!
talk about that. Not really give a deck profile so much as just kind of like a tournament report, how we did, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we would change. So yeah, I mean, Digifest was awesome. I had a great time. For me, I played locals Thursday night, drove up Friday, played in the PPG locals Friday night, the pre-fest that they had, and then played in Fest day 1 and 2. And Ben did, I believe, the exact same thing.
Everything but Thursday night locals. I was flying into Miami at the time, so
So, yeah, for it was a lot of Digimon, a lot of Digimon, and it was a lot of fun. I guess first, what made you decide to go with blue, and then I'll talk about what made me decide to go with blue.
as you probably can't already tell, I'm a big fan of all of the Good Boy Gabu and Garurumons. So I was playing Gabu Bond in BT6. Uh, Played Purple Melga in BT4. Played Purple Melga in 1.0 and 1.5. Somehow didn't play Blue Omni in 1.0, but obviously I've been a residential Blue and Purple player. Hadn't played Lilith Loop in a while, and I just didn't feel um, experienced enough with the Cerberus build since I hadn't touched it since BT5, and so Blue is kind of my go-to, and I love Magna Garuru, but the list has changed or it has evolved to the point where it's no longer needed in the deck, so it's just what I've been naturally playing. Obviously, it's the best deck, and um, it was the thing to feel most confident with.
Yeah, so for me, I've actually been playing Lilith Loop at locals, and I've just been having such a rough time against like people who are really savvy with blue. Like it seems like I do fine against people who are like picking up blue or players who don't normally play blue, but when I hit like a really skilled player at locals, which my locals has a lot of really strong competitors. One of them made day 2 at Digifest, and almost all of them like top 128ed. I was just like, it was such an uphill battle for Loop. Like I felt like I had to hit everything right, and they had to miss at least once. So I actually really wanted to take mono green after like looking at some other people's success with it. Like Max was having a lot of fun with mono green and doing pretty well. Russell LePere was doing really well. Like he had a whole like local tournament report about it, and he made a lot of really solid points that I agreed with. I just didn't have testing with anything else. It was this loop or yellow hybrid, and my yellow hybrid build in testing was like day 1 of the format. So I just like wasn't comfortable going into the new meta with it. Because like for the record, I think there are probably 4 decks that can hang right now, and it's mono blue by like a long shot. I think Loop is still up there in the right hands. I think Cherubi is up there, and I think mono green is like really up there. I also think yellow is up. Like I don't think this is one of those situations, right, where like the deck isn't as oppressive as people think. It's just so popular, and it with like all of the players who are pretty good as well, that it just the numbers look so skewed. I think,
Right.
and it's because it's safe. Like that's at the end of the day, that's why we both took it. Like you being a blue player, it's a consistent good deck, and it's in a color you're comfortable with. Me, I brought it because it was safe. So on the screen now is the list I ran, main deck and side deck. I took notes on how I side decked all day. I actually, more often than not, I think 2 games in Swiss. Yeah, so that's not more often than not, but there were, I'm sorry, 3 games in Swiss out of 8 rounds. I just shuffled all 10 cards in and took the same 10 cards out. So, like, if you were watching my stream game where I played Jessmon, and you saw that there were upside down cards in my deck while I was siding, that was just my entire side deck. So just to save time, I would shuffle them in upside down and take the same upside down cards out, just to not run the clock looking for my side deck after I shuffled. I did that 3 times, and I'll go over why and when. How did you feel about the side deck? How often did you side? Let me pull your list up. Very different.
Yeah. So my sideboard, I think for the most part, I tried siding in Zudomon once against Blue Mirror. I believe it was against Ari, and just for the second game. And the entire time, I just was in my head. I was like, if I ever evolve into this, it's gonna get 1 attack, and that's it. Just because unless I see Aqua Viper, it's gonna be frozen the whole time, and it's really not gonna have the opportunity to manage the board like I was hoping it would. Swinging over the Beowulf is really not going to do much outside of that. So for Blue Mirror, I just sided in the Aqua Viper, the second Supreme Cannon, and Forbidden Trident, and never looked back. For Purple against Lilith Loop, I sided in the 2 Absolute Blast, the 2 Melgas, and then for Green, I sided in the Beowulf, the 2 Melgas, and I forgot to side in the Absolute Blast because I forgot about Argomon. But luckily, I managed to force the, I'm going to call him a mellow yellow player since we've been calling all the green hybrid decks variants of Mountain Dew. He had a yellow base, so I forced him into Valderarm a couple times and actually got rid of the Argomon at that point, and then I was able to get control back of the game.
Okay. Yeah, so this on screen now is Ben's list inside deck. He went with, the Supreme Cannon main, the starter deck Mat mains, the usual suspects. He has the 2 Kendo. Other than that, it's all very standard. It's like I feel like Blue has like its core, and then you have like 4 or 5 cards that you kind of play around with.
Right.
So and it depends how many Bokos you want to run. A lot of people are running 2. Some people are still running 4. I think me and you both settled on 3.
Yeah.
So the difference between our lists, I think ostensibly, is you run the 2 Kendo instead of 1, you run the 1 Azulong instead of 2, and you're on the Mat instead of the Mimi, and the Supreme Cannon over the Trident in the main board. And then if I click back over to mine, it's just the 1 Kendo, the 2 Azulong, the Mimi, and I had the Trident main board. Honestly, it was and like we have very different play styles and very different. Like you said, Kendo came up a ton for you, and Azulong never did.
Absolutely not.
And for me, Kendo never came up, and I won like 4 games because of Azulong. So, but that's also like the power, the difference of running 2 over 1. I think for both of those is like I just didn't see Kendo a lot, and I don't know what your run looked like, but I either 2-0'd or got 0-2 every single match I played in this tournament. So, my round 1, I guess I'll just go into like a breakdown. My list is on board. So, my round 1, I played against Ryan Poon. He was playing Jessmon. I won game 1, and then I shuffled 10 cards into my deck and took the same 10 cards out. I did not feel like I needed a side deck for Jessmon. I could have sided Hexablow, but I felt like the pressure that Azulong gave me against his playstyle was going to be better. So I left it in. And then I won game 2. In round 2, I played against Gabe Sosa. He was playing a loop deck that had like a musket package, which I think is really interesting. Game 1 was kind of grindy, and I won it. But I took out 2 Azulong Mons. I took out 1 Trident, and I put in an Absolute Blast and 2 Hex. And I don't even think I saw any of those things for Game 2, but I won Game 2. In Game 3, or Round 3, I played Brian Phillips. At Table 1, he was playing the Lord Nightmon combo deck. And Game 1, I won. It was kind of back and forth. I sided out a Trident and in an Absolute Blast, and that's all I really did. again, like I really should have sided in Hexablow more, but I just felt like because Azulong was performing so well for me that I just never wanted to take it out. So in game 2, he actually did the full combo, like turn 3. He got to Lord Knight in the back, he raised it up, dropped the Pulsemon, went to 3, did the Electric Boogaloo, ended up with like 6 things on board, wiped my board. I just had a Davis and a Sora Joe. So I started at 5, and I was able to, I was literally able to go to Azulong, swing for all his security, and I didn't have a hybrid for game, but I was able to Ice Wall to put him at 1. And he like literally just like looked at his cards and he's like, yeah, can't do nothing. Then round 4, I actually played David Lago. He represented North America at Digimon Con. Great player. He was playing Blue Hybrid in game 1. We had a really good back and forth game. I sided out 1 Boko and 1 Azulong for a second Mimi and a Supreme Cannon. They both came up. The Mimi, for me, I know a lot of people use it defensively, but what I was doing with it mostly was if they had their Madoki Betamon out, I used it so that my Hammer Sparks could still Hammer Spark. And like against him, that was huge if I remember correctly, and I'm not getting it mixed up. And then, yeah, so I got that one 2-0 as well. I believe I was his only loss. Round 5, I played Chris Das, I hope I pronounced that right. And he was playing Bond of Friendship Hybrid Blue, which we saw a couple of those at Fest, which was really interesting. And a different person topped with the same type of deck list. I won game 1, I sided out a Mimi and sided in an Aqua Viper. And I sided in the Aqua Viper because it could help kind of control his board, and if he did end up freezing, like my Beowulf, I was able to bounce it back to my hand. That was like my thought process. Never came up, like either of them, I don't think. And I got that one. Then I played you, round 6. I lost game 1. I sided out a Boko and a Mimi, and I sided in an Aqua Viper and Supreme Cannon, and you beat me game 2 as well. So then I got paired up on stream against Jessmon. I got both of those games. You can check out the stream if you want to see how that went down. I did not side deck. And then in round 8, I played Andres, who was playing Blue Hybrid. He ended up, I believe, 4th overall. Was that Andres or Lago who came?
Yeah, I believe it was Andres. I want to say Lago ended up
2nd. Was Lago 2nd?
I think Lago was 2nd because he was the one that ended up beating Diego, right?
Yeah, one of them was 2nd and one of them was 4th. I'm sorry that I can't remember which one was which at the moment. But I played Andres, who I ended up winning to end the tournament early. So we cut a round out, and yeah, we went on to day 2. For what it's worth, in day 2, I played Nobu, the Pope of the Church of Cherubi. Absolutely crushed me. I was not ready for the matchup. I sideboarded incorrectly in hindsight, and I just got my game 1. I opened all 3 of my Davis, and I just felt like I could not rightfully mulligan, even though the hand was so slow. I just needed a memory tamer. And then in game 2, he opened double Kari. Like, he opened a Kari, put a Kari with a reinforced memory boost in his security, and then found his 3rd Kari. And, like, it was just such a big mountain to climb. And, like, a timely death wall just kind of sealed game for him. Great games. Love Nobu. Hyped for him for coming 3rd with... Not only coming 3rd, but coming 3rd with Cherubi. Very awesome. And that was my DigiFest. I ended up 11th overall. I was 2nd place in Swiss. And it was a great time. And now, you can talk about yours. I'll pull your deck up. I'm done ranting.
Alright, so I had a bit of a rough start. I actually ended up getting, well, I shouldn't say I had a rough start. I had a slow start. Had a tough round, round 1, Philip Pena. I actually managed to just prevent him from playing the game entirely. In fact, he literally was not at the venue. So it was a no-show. The second round was against Nathan Pena, who was also playing Blue Hybrid. I won that 2-0. I believe I only sided out 3 cards. I want to say it was the general trend was I would take out 2 Boko and 1 Hammer Spark for Aqua Viper, Second Supreme, and Trident. But I'm not 100% certain. I might have just taken out Hammer Sparks there or something. But anyways, that was typically the trend for the day. Round 3. I won that 2-0 as well. I don't believe I dropped the game until round 5. No, sorry, round 4. Round 3, I played Jeremy Melton. He was playing a very interesting build like I was talking about before. It was a green hybrid with a yellow base. So he was running Salamon, the BT6 Tinkermon, and I cannot remember the third yellow. It might have been Cutemon. But he had an unfortunate start game 1. I was staying extremely memory efficient the whole time. I think I only put him at 3 after going first. And he had to play a reinforcing memory boost, which revealed a Lightning Paw and a yellow, I believe it was Tinkermon. So the Lightning Paw was in security. I had a few bodies on board already, and I just continued to build the board, playing around Lightning Paw, not swinging into security until I had already gotten value out of my Bokomon, had Digivolved on top of my other rookies, and then swung into security with the Boko. So I just played around it and just kind of prevented him from playing the game the entire time while he bricked. The second game got a little scary. He managed to get up into an Argomon and suspend my Tamers. I had to get to the point where I was able to go into a Beowulf after freezing with Korikaku, forced out a Valderarm, froze the Valderarm, and then managed to force him into a second Valderarm after I got 2 Korikakus on board after freezing. And then the Argomon was gone at that point. I went up to 10 memory and then just took control of the game at that point. And then the 4th round, I ended up playing against Jesse Spencer, who was playing Lilithloop. I believe that's one of your locals.
No, Nathan Pena is actually my local, and then he's the one who top 16 as well. His only loss was to you. Jesse Spencer plays in a lot of the online events. He plays in Ari's events a lot. He plays in the Gyro Shawns. He plays, he's around. He does fairly well.
Got it. Anyways, he kind of gave me a run for my money. The first game, I think I won rather convincingly, and then the second game, I pushed him to a point where he was forced to loop at one point, and ended up getting I think it was a Cerberusmon, an Eismon, and a Scatter Mode on board. And I pushed him to 0 security, where it was like, if you don't kill me this turn, then I win. And he managed to kill me that turn, because he managed to fish out the Jack Raids necessary to get just enough memory to go into Lilith. After popping the Cerberus, managed to, I think he had to do an empty Deathclaw with this Scatter Mode in order to find the Zwart. Found the Zwart, and then managed to get the Ginkaku promote afterwards. There was an absolute blast in my security, and I had to make the choice between bottom decking an unsuspended Eismon or a Cerberusmon. And so I ended up bottom decking the Cerberusmon because I didn't want the Werewolf. I wanted to force him to have, I had to bottom deck the Eismon to make sure that he didn't have the promote or the Werewolf in hand, and force that he had some other way to get a Werewolf out of trash, or pop the Cerberus that was on board. Anyways, he managed to find the promote and swung. And then third game, I stayed in relatively strong control the entire time. And then I had to make a bold move when I was at 1 memory and he had a Mimi on board. I had to absolute blast his Lady Debbie when I think he might have been at 3 security, but he had no Digimon in raising. Had a Tamer Mat, a Mimi, and I want to say a Kari on board. No, sorry, it was an Analog Youth. And at that point, he ended up just scooping when I left him at 2 security. I think I had potential 4 swings on board for the next turn. After that was round 5 against Ari from True Tramps Games. And I want to say that was probably my toughest match for the day, outside of when I got clapped in the final round. It basically went down to the wire the entire time. The main thing that I should note was my opening hand for game one. I had 2 Beowulf, Davis, a Boko, and no rookie. I do not remember what the 5th card was, but I ended up mulliganing it and regretting it soon after because I ended up only seeing 1 Beowulf, I believe, for the whole game. And the name of the game there is kind of, if you Beowulf second, you lose, unless you have just an insurmountable advantage at the start. And I ended up doing an aggressive Beowulf play at the start, and then ended up falling behind soon after. So I made note to recuperate and adjust in the following games. Game 2, I believe I won relatively convincingly, at least compared to the first game. And then the third game was absolutely down to the wire. I had to make a bold swing into security. And if it was Hammer Spark, I was going to lose because I had to draw into Hammer Spark. But I managed to Digivolve into Hybrid to close it out. And like I said, I only cited the 3 cards for every blue matchup. For our match between me and you, honestly don't remember how the first game went. The second game, I distinctly remember making a bold decision where I swung into security with Siako while he had 2 bodies on board and a Sora and Joe. And I decided, I think he had put me at 2 memory, and if the Siako lived, I was going to Aqua Viper it no matter what to dodge the Sora and Joe. And then if not, then I was going to Digivolve into Kumamon on top of one of my Tamers and then Aqua Viper that just to get rid of the bodies and try to set up lethal for the next turn or the following turns. But I believe that was like the main momentum swing for the second game. And I think that was all I can honestly remember for that set. The 7th round, I played against Sebastian Acosta, who also made top 16. He was running the Magna Garuru Koji Blue Hybrid. And I just stayed in control the entire time. I don't think he saw Davis for most of it. And it just, I ended up choking him, forcing him into situations where I was trying to bait him into Digivolving into his Beowulf, into Magna. And then just having an opportunity to freeze it, and I basically put him into a situation where he never had the opportunity to. And I think he might have done it right before I closed out one of the games. So it felt like a very convincing win. And then for the last game, I played against Diego Rodriguez, aka Battle Ready. And for those that don't know, he got 4th at Nationals with Lilith. And he was also playing Lilith in this and absolutely destroyed me. I think part of it was I didn't see Davis, but otherwise I felt completely outplayed the entire set. Really had never played anyone that was playing Lilith to that caliber. It just seemed like he only brought out the scatter mode when he was ready to Deathclaw it. Granted, I think he had 3 Eyes Mons the first time, so it was really hard to come back from that. The second time, it's just, I gave him an inch and he took a mile, like Lilith players do. I think he only had 2 memory, managed to go into Lilith and everything and go off. One distinct thing I remember was game 1, I had the opportunity to choke him at 1 with a Madoki Betamon, but instead I Digivolved in Raising. And that was a crucial mistake because I needed to prevent him from getting the memory gain, or at least force the Deathclaw out in order to keep him from going off, and that's the turn that he happened to kill me. Instead, I believe I did a Howling Memory Boost to try to stall so that I could play the Ice Wall on the next turn, and try to also set up a potential lethal, or at least some sort of offense at some point in that game, and I felt like I was playing from behind the entire time, so it ended up resulting in failure. But regardless, I ended up 3rd for Swiss, so I can't complain, especially when my only loss was the guy that got 1st, and was super happy to see you right above me. I wouldn't want anyone else right above me.
Yeah, somehow I think the back-to-back pair-ups got my tiebreakers where they just needed to be to just slightly pass you in standings.
Yeah, and it was super awesome. Like, I mean, 3 of the top 8 were either a teammate, myself, or a local from my region. Shoutouts to Nando from Digi Academy for getting 7th in Swiss, and I do not remember his final placing for Top Cut, but he also got top 16. So I felt like our team, Digi Academy, and Louisville as well, all had very strong showings for this weekend. So super happy about that.
Yeah, for what it's worth, day 2, 10 of the 16 people who made day 2 were either GFG, Digi Academy, your local, my local, or someone who plays in GFG events regularly.
Yeah.
So, like, pretty wild that, like, just 10 out of 16 were homies. Like, we just could not dodge if we tried.
Right. So day 2, I ended up having to play Steven Nunez, who was the top 16 player that played Bond of Friendship, Blue Hybrid, which is a deck I've always really wanted to try because I love my Gabu. I love my Gabu. Anyways, I honestly didn't let him play the game, ever. I saw one total Gabumon the entire game, and it was the first Digimon he Digivolved in Raising. I don't know if I ever saw VT6 Matt come down unless I was going for game. And he never saw Davis. Actually, he saw Davis game 2, which is what he started with, but then I responded with Digivolve in Raising, Boko, Davis while he had nothing in Raising, and when he was forced to Digivolve the Davis early, where I then presumed to just choke him out for the entire game. So honestly, I didn't let him play the game, and I wasn't going to give him any chances. As long as there wasn't a Gabu in Raising, I did not care about what was in Raising. I was in complete control the entire time, and that was that. Then my final round happened to be top 8 against Clyde Jackson Huang, who ended up going on to win the entire tournament, and that was another match where I just felt absolutely outplayed. I tried to play, I think, too passively. I lost the dice roll, which generally is favorable in this current meta right now, going second, just because you don't want to be the guy that gives 3 or 4 memory to the opponent or end up having to pass. The additional card draw to see whatever you need is extremely helpful, but he ended up putting on an early aggression to where I think I was down to 2 security by turn 3. He ended up just getting 3 bodies very quickly. And that was absolutely the right play. Unfortunately, I don't think I saw a single tamer in security either, which was a big deal. And then the second game, honestly, kind of felt like a blur. I don't think I was going through the motions, but it's just I kind of felt the same aggression or level of aggression against me in that match. I chose to go second, and it ended up biting me in the butt twice in a row. So I think, honestly, it was more so I needed to show some sort of offense at that point. I was playing too passively. But I remember the main mistake was he swung into security with Siako, revealed a Hammer Spark, which passed turn, and I ended up... sorry, it wasn't a Siako, it was a Strabi. I ended up swinging over it with my Siako and then digivolving into a Kumamon to strip his Siako, at which point he ended up removing my Siako the following turn, and then not having the Siako, he was able to establish an early aggression with Beowulf and board control, and that led to my downfall, and I could have easily just digivolved on top of my rookie with Kumamon first and then swung over. And then, since he had swung over my Siako with the Kumamon the following turn, that would have forced him in a much more awkward position where I had the Siako on board, so he had no chance of going into Beowulf. And also, he would have been forced to crash if he didn't have the Korikaku or a Lobo or something that was he was able to efficiently digivolve and swing over the Kumamon. So that was a couple minor mistakes that ended up costing me the set. But that was the level of play we were at by the end of the weekend. So I can't complain, and I had stuff to take away from it.
Yeah, overall, I mean, nothing to complain about, man. We got to plan a super smooth event. PPG did a phenomenal job. We started on time. We ended early. I have not a single complaint about how the event was run, judged, or anything. Big shout outs to Machado, Felipe, Danny G, Yadam, Camillo. Nightmare flew into head judge. He did a great job. It was just a really great event. Um, Moving forward, I guess people are going to want to know, like, what would you change without sideboards, without mulligans? Like, would you still run blue? Like, how would it look different?
I'm still gonna run blue. Honestly, I think the main thing is that you need to focus on the consistency of the deck and having the one-ofs. Um, it helps, but also you gotta make sure that you are not getting you're not starved of rookies. I think the main thing would be I would probably try to fit one or two more rookies back in, maybe cut a Kendo. But like you were saying previously, I absolutely love Kendo. Kendo helped me so much. And honestly, I just needed to evolve more in racing with it. So that's kind of also where the blue rookie count would come in. Honestly, the only card I really didn't like in my main deck the entire time was a Zulong because it just never came up. Anytime I had the opportunity to go into it, I was already going for game, or already had control, or it was already too late, or the opponent had a memory blocker on board. So honestly, the only thing that I liked about Zulong was having a 13k in security in case I ran into green with Ancient Beetles or Ancient Troys. Otherwise, I 100% wish it was Magna. Magna allows me to bounce any ultimate that's not in the blue hybrid mirror, or for instance, Jet Sylphie. I hate bouncing Jet Sylphie, but it also restands it and allows me to have additional value if I'm playing the blue hybrid matchup and it is getting constantly frozen. I'm able to restand other stuff. Not to mention recycling my Beowulf is absolutely huge. It's kind of the boss monster of the deck, honestly, more so than a Zulong. A Zulong's more like a Valderarm or such for yellow decks in previous formats. And honestly, it just didn't come up enough for me. And I would say Magna is better now than it was previously earlier in the format, where when we were playing against Green Hybrid, we saw a lot more Ancient Troy, which kind of ate up Magna since it would restand and then Ancient Troy would just suspend it again before the security check. Now it's more Argomon, which is not as big of an issue. If the Argomon ever swings, it's only an 11k, so Magna can swing over it still, and also it can get that returning value, be able to restand things such as Tamers that were previously suspended and you Digivolve into. And also, like I said previously, bouncing a Cerberus Mon, feels so good. Yeah, so that's kind of the main thing for me. I might keep the one Supreme in, but I'm not too stressed about the blue matchup. It honestly didn't really come up much in any game once. I bounced maybe one target at a time. I never actually played it from hand. I would almost like an Aqua Viper more, but I think Forbidden Trident would probably be the card that I would move to, or Absolute Blast as a one-of.
Yeah. And I think, let me click back over to me. I think without sideboards, I definitely replaced the Mimi with, if I decide to go with the Magna package, either a Koji or a starter deck mat, because I think one Koji, one Magna wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah.
Or even dropping a Sorojo for a second Koji, but I hate the idea of like diluting the deck even more. I do like the Kendo. I think it's fine as a one-of. I think I would drop one of each of the Floodgates, maybe even, to put in a couple of the other Strabis if I do go the Koji route. If I don't go the Koji route, I think I just find room for maybe, like you said, one or two more rookies. Maybe just the one more Strabi without the Koji.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I drop a Zulong to 1 if I decide to keep him in. Drop Mimi for starter mat, or again, if you go the Koji Magna route, just one Magna is enough, I think, in the main board. Trident could be dropped for either a third Howling just to hammer that consistency, or, I mean, without sides, I think a one of Supreme Cannon gets stronger because it helps you out Cherubi, it helps you out the Mirror, it helps you just, if you see it in security, it could just be such a blowout in certain matchups. But overall, I mean, the list is so consistent. It's very solid. It feels great. It feels like it's like, yeah, I kept the hand with triple Davis, and it was like a slow start. But in most matchups, like there was a game where I mulliganed into quad Tommy, uh, Howling.
Oh.
Like that was my mull, and I won that game. It wasn't even like, oh, am I gonna get it? Like I literally was just like, oh, okay, Howling. And then like on my turn, I was like, Tommy, strip your sources. And then like I drew into a Strawby and like hard played it, and then I just started running away with it from there. It was just insane. Like it's crazy how much this deck lends to itself without going out of your way to do it. And that's like what I was explaining. Like one of my roommates was like asking me like why blue is so popular and so powerful, and I was like, well, you have Cherubimon, and like all these cards go together, but you kind of have to force it. Like Lilith Loop, you get these really good synergy cards, but it's like you have to play really clunky for a little bit to get to the big payoff. Whereas like every card in this deck feels like it was made to play with each other. And you have options that aren't even in the deck that feel like it's made to be played with these 50 cards. Like it's insane how much inherent synergy blue has right now. And it's so strong. I don't quite agree with people who are like, oh, it's too oppressive, it should be banned, this, and that. I think it's manageable, but I think with side decks, blue is insane. And this is not to harp on points that we've talked about before, or that like Huang Zero has talked about at length, but I think this is the example of why I am not a fan of side decks, and it's because it takes your tier 1 decks and just puts them at that slight reach out. It's like, yeah, people can side against you, but then you can side in answers to them as well, and it just feels like blue's just a small step ahead of everything else right now with the sideboard and mulligan. I think without sideboard and mulligan, it's a little less oppressive. It feels a little less feels bad. If I'm being honest, I don't know what you put on my exit survey. I put that mulligans should stay because they help you open up a little bit of space with deck building creativity, and that sideboards should go because I think even though at first it looks like they do the same thing, they actually do the opposite. Like we didn't really talk about side decking at all, like as a team, and I'm pretty sure all of our side decks looked basically the same. Like
yeah.
Like
so sorry, go ahead.
No, go right at. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say for the exit survey, I ended up putting yes for mulligans. I'm relatively indifferent to them, but I think this deck is the best example of how intriguing they are into the game. Where you see decks like Lilith Loop and Jessamon that are very piece reliant. Obviously, mulligans favor them very much, but when you have a deck like this where it's just very consistent and versatile, the mulligan gives the deck an opportunity to see the pieces that are more imperative to the matchup. So, for instance, in the blue mirror, if I didn't see any Beowulfs, I could mulligan for Beowulfs. In the green matchup, if I didn't see any Siakos, I could mulligan for Siako. Even if I have, Boko, Strabi, Blue Tamer to start, even if it's a Davis, just being able to see some pieces to the matchup that favor that allow you to have more control in the matchup and just prevent the opponent, from having, the nuts essentially, having some control to restrict them, to make their plays difficult, is very important to this kind of deck. For the sideboard, I believe you said it best, but to put it in fighting game terms, since that's what I come from, Yomi 1 is obviously blue is the best deck. It's, this is what you have to answer. Yomi 2 this is the counter to blue. We're going to side in the Argomons, we're going to side in the Purge Shines, we're going to do everything to make sure that they can't play the game as oppressively as they like to. And then, Yomi 3, blue, this is how they side. They just have answers for your answers. And so giving us flexibility while giving us the opportunity that our deck is just so good we don't have to really side if we need to. I mean, I honestly didn't really have to change any of the cards in my deck at all this weekend. I never saw the Melgas, so they never came to question. They were as useless as the Azulongs because I just never had the opportunity to see them. even though I very much wanted them in matchups. But I still won literally almost every game that I put them in. Actually, I did won every game except the Little Flute matches. So just this deck is just strong the way it is right now, but if green and yellow sides against it, then I don't have answers for that without a side deck. Because it's, those cards are going to be very much useless in those matchups that they're not applicable.
Yeah.
And I also lose my consistency.
Yeah, and and that's one of the reasons I voted to keep mulligans is like I want to see those high roll decks be played. Like if that's your playstyle, if you want to get that payoff with Jessamon, like I think you should be able to. I don't think it makes it like I hear at my locals all the time. It's like, oh, he won because he got the nuts with Jessamon. It's like, but that's what Jessamon's supposed to do. Like
Exactly.
It's literally just trying to get to a board state where you have the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a valid and unique strategy that I think needs to stay in the game. I did put the caveat that I think if mulligans stay, we should shuffle. Maybe not even before redrawing the cards, but after putting them at the bottom, because I think any information you gain outside of gameplay is information that's like unfairly assessed. I don't think you should gain information through game mechanics. Like knowing my bottom 5 cards is just as much of like a boon to me. You know what I mean? Like people in set 1 used to talk all the time about how TK was so powerful because you saw your security. So you knew what you wouldn't be drawing. You knew what like was in your security outside of the one card you recovered, and like how much of an advantage that gave you. I think knowing your bottom 5 cards are just as much of an advantage, because there have been games in the loop where I've gotten to the end and I'm like, okay, this is the Zwart I put back, so I know I'm gonna hit Zwart here.
Right.
Like it, and
yeah, it's a lot of information.
So I don't know. I will play the game however Bandai decides to tell us. If they want to keep sideboards in, I'll play it. If they want to make sideboards 20 cards, I'll play it. I don't think it's healthy, but I'm gonna do whatever it is to play this game because I love this IP. I love the game mechanically, and I mean, it's kind of a part of me at this point. So,
Same. Going back to your suggestion about shuffling the deck if you mulligan, though, would that include shuffling the security in as well?
I don't think so. I think just the hand is enough because I think security should get placed first no matter what. I don't know. I think obviously they're going to look at our surveys. They might do some more adapted rules in the future events, and I think we'll get to the point where the game is a lot more stable, and they could design around a rule set they like. I mean, even looking at Magic, for the first few years, it was like the Wild West. They I don't know if you know this, but like original Magic, you could play any number of copies of cards. Decks could be minimum 40, and yeah, so you could just do insane things.
That's extremely chaotic.
Yeah. So the game's evolved a lot from there, and I mean, we'll see how it goes. I think Fest was a lot of fun. I had a great time seeing everyone in person. I got to meet Dan Vang in real life, finally.
Yeah.
That was huge. I got to see everyone who came out. It was just such a blast. Hanging out with the DA boys, hanging out with everyone we know from Discord and online events. Regardless of records, like, it was just such a blast.
Yeah, even the PPG tournament for Friday night, I had a little too much fun with it. Shoutouts to Danny G for giving me the opportunity to enter that, by the way. My side deck, I ended up making just an experimentation that I really wanted to try. I ended up smoke screening into a red package where I was running 2 Takuya, 2 Emperor Grey, 3 Atomic Inferno, 2 Nemon, and Susanna was the last for yellow. And basically the idea was just, try to flip the aggression on the flick of a switch and just completely change the playstyle of the deck. Ended up going 2-2-2 for that, but and ended up losing any of the matches after I won game 1. But I had a lot of fun with that. Got to see so many people. don't know if it was necessary, but I ended up injecting myself into your all's hug, you and Dan, turning it into a group hug. But it's great to hang out with everybody, hang out with the Digi Academy, our extremely chaotic Airbnb that you can see footage of from Max DePera's vlog. Getting to chat with all the content creators, all the players that. After Clyde beat my ass in top 8, he thanked us for everything we did in the GFG Discord, and I was like, I haven't been there long enough to be thanking, but thanks.
Yeah. Jackson was on fire this weekend. He won the PPG pre-event, and then won the fest. So that was pretty hot. I think I talked him into playing blue because I was like, "What are you playing tonight?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm playing blue tonight, but I'm playing loop at fest." And I was like, "I think you should play blue at fest." So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I actually talked him into it, or if his teammates did, or if he just had such a good time that he went with it. But Jackson is insane. Clyde is his Discord name, so I keep switching between them. But he is a very I told Nobu after he wiped the floor with me that I was like, "You're on the same bracket as Jackson, so watch yourself." And he got it. So congrats to him. Congrats to everyone, honestly. Even if you didn't day 2, like, this is a huge event. It's the biggest in-person event we've had for Digimon so far, and playing in person is a lot different, like, mentally, than playing online. Like, it's a lot more taxing, I feel. So, I mean, like, one of my locals was like, "Hey, this is my only event I've played that's over, like, 100 people." He's like, "I went 4-4, and he's like, "and I'm really proud of myself." And I'm like, "Hell yeah, dude." Like, that's... I hope a lot of people take more things like that away. And I hope no one's getting discouraged or disappointed. Because, like, at the end of the day, we're doing this as a hobby. Like, I don't know. I know me and Dan go on about it all the time. You should play the deck you like, and here I am playing blue. Don't... I do like blue, for what it's worth. At least it's not...
Okay, we're all switching back to Imperial in a month. So.
Yeah, right? At least it's not like a boring deck to play. I felt like Lord Knight was such a boring deck to play in BT4 and BT5.
Yeah.
But yeah, any closing thoughts? Any remarks, shout-outs? What was your final placing? Was it 5th?
It was 5th. I thought it was 6th, but I think that might have been before the top coat was officially placed. I guess somehow it placed me over Diego based on the opponent match win percentage, since Clyde ended up winning the whole thing. So I think I got a little lucky there, but it still stings not being as close as possible outside of top 4, let alone top 3, where the Liliths were awarded. So, but I mean, I obviously cannot complain. All of my losses, I had plenty of experience to take away from in terms of how to improve as a player, and that's all I can ask for. I will happily take any loss where I can turn it into experience points and level up, no pun intended for RPGs, but or rather than win, unless it's the cream of the crop tournament, the world finals or something. But absolute shout outs to you and Dan and Shannon, the other members of the team, and Trey, even from back home. Just keeping my mindset right, definitely helped me stay confident and collected the entire time. Shout outs to the book that I read during my flight on the way down. It's called Embrace the Chaos by Bob Maglia, I think is the name. It was just all about stop stressing, over the anxiety of the future or the past or the things that you can't control. Live in the chaos, embrace it, just accept it for what it is, and that helped me just stay right the entire time, not get frustrated over whatever my opponent's security revealed, and just stay, focused on my lines of play and the following turns after that. Shout outs to my local Louisville group, Probroski, Nando, Shannon as well, and GTS Grayson from Digi Academy. The 5 of us, I felt like did very well. Despite not all of us getting top 16 or top 64, but I felt like we really showed up and showed out. And every time I do well, I say it's a team effort, and I say that everybody wins. I feel it as much of a win if one of my boys, ended up being in the place that I was. And then shout outs to everyone in the GFG Discord that's been extremely supportive, and has helped us level up, helped us grow into what we are, feeling like a grassroots group. It really feels like a community that I just absolutely love to be a part of, and I'm thankful for it every day. I apologize for me mysteriously disappearing during BT4 and BT5. That was just me, trying to stay in touch or prioritize my locals instead of online tournaments. But I'm back and I'm here to stay. Don't worry. And then shout outs to everyone that said hi or introduced themselves at the tournament that had known me or hadn't known me. It was an absolute pleasure to see everyone, to be around everyone, to just enjoy this and turn it into memories that we can look back on and make us more hopeful for the future events that we have coming up and ones that we don't even know of.
Yeah. I have way too many shout outs, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But shout out to my roommate Megan for driving us around, playing in her first big event. And Miami traffic was a pain, so that was very much appreciated. And, shout outs to everyone on the team, on Digi Academy, in the Discord, Mario, Max, Steven, PPG, just literally everybody. That you know who you are. You're all important to us. And I wouldn't change it for the world, man. Can't wait for the next big one. Can't wait for the Ultimate Cups. Can't wait just to see you guys on Monday nights, too. So, I think we could wrap it up. I think we got like a good hour in this bitch, so...
I didn't realize it was going that long.
Yeah, exactly. So, this will be a nice upload for YouTube. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. I know it was a lot of rambling, a lot of ranting. But hey, you guys are always saying just show the lists. Don't do it card for card. So here's Ben's on screen now, one last time with the sideboard. And here's mine. So if anything else, you got that, guys. Alright, from GFG, Airborne, Tyler, Ben, I don't have a cool net handle, so we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Stay fly.